Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for all things giallo here on The King in Giallo. We are continuing our coverage for the fourth giallo film from Sergio Martino, Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, released on August 4th, 1972. In this video, I will give you a condensed version of the full-length overview video covering only the cast and crew and the plot of the movie. Then I'll transition into the GialliTally. The GialliTally will contain heavy spoilers. Here is Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key. Overview. Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, also called Excite Me, Gently Before She Dies, or Eye of the Black Cat, is an Italian production. The film is directed by Sergio Martino. The screenplay is written by Adriano Bolzoni, Ernesto Gastaldi, and Sauro Scavolini. Music is composed by Bruno Nicolai. The cast is comprised of Edwige Fenech as Floriana, Anita Strindberg as Irina, Luigi Pistilli as Oliviero, Ivan Rasimov as Walter, Franco Nibbia as Inspector, Riccardo Salvino as Dario, and Daniela Giordano as Fausta. The plot follows Oliviero and Irina, a married couple rotting inside a crumbling estate and an even more decayed relationship. Once a respected novelist, Oliviero is now a bitter alcoholic plagued by writer's block and violent mood swings. His blackouts grow more frequent, and his frustration bleeds into all corners of his life, including his inability to be intimate with Irina. Living in fear, Irina begins to suspect that her husband may be planning to kill her, and turns to his alluring cousin Floriana, who has suddenly arrived for an extended visit, for comfort and support. But Floriana has her own agenda. As tensions in the household escalate, a mysterious figure in black begins a string of brutal killings in the nearby village, blurring the line between paranoia and imminent danger. But I digress. On to the GialliTally. Spoilers ahead for those of you who haven't yet seen the film. You've been warned. My prediction for the movie's GialliTally score. In my unscripted review video, I predicted around 725 to 775 points. Well, let's begin the GialliTally portion of the video, beginning as always with the previewing cliches. The repeat offenders are 1 point for actor, 3 for writer, 3 for composer, and 5 for director. Edwige Fenech was in, well, technically, this came out the same day, August 4th, 1972, but let's add it. The Case of the Bloody Iris, All the Colors of the Dark, The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, $5 for an August Moon, and Top Sensation, 5 points. Anita Strindberg was in Who Saw Her Die, The Two Faces of Fear, The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, and A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, 4 points. Luigi Pistilli was in A Bay of Blood, The Iguana with the Tongue of Fire, The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, and The Sweet Body of Deborah, 4 points. Ivan Rasimov was in All the Colors of the Dark, Cross Current, and The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, 3 points. Daniela Giordano was in The Case of the Bloody Iris, The Night of the Scorpion, and Death Walks on High Heels, 3 points. Ermelinda de Felice was in 7 Bloodstained Orchids, and So Sweet, So Perverse, 2 points. Marco Mariani was in What Have You Done to Solange, Slaughter Hotel, and Death Occurred Last Night, 3 points. Carla Mancini, in our last GialliTally video, we officially capped off the points she will garner for appearing in well over 10 films in minor speaking roles, so 10 points. Bruno Boschetti was in Devil in the Brain, The Double, The Designated Victim, and Hatchet for the Honeymoon, 4 points. Ernesto Gastaldi wrote The Case of the Bloody Iris, All the Colors of the Dark, Death Walks on High Heels, The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, Human Cobras, The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, The Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion, So Sweet, So Perverse, The Sweet Body of Deborah, A for assassin, the murder clinic, libido, and the possessed, 39 points. Sauro Scavolini wrote All the Colors of the Dark, The Double, and The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, 9 points. Adriano Bolzoni wrote The Man with Icy Eyes, 3 points. Luciano Martino wrote Human Cobras, So Sweet, So Perverse, The Sweet Body of Deborah, and The Murder Clinic, 12 points. Bruno Nicolai composed The Case of the Bloody Iris, The French Sex Murders, All the Colors of the Dark, The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave, and The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, 15 points. And Sergio Martino directed All the Colors of the Dark, The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, and The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, 15 points. Cliché points for the title, Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key. Again, I don't exactly have a perfect category for this title, but the absurd length is cliché enough, but I will go with title is a declaration, because it is. 5 points. First look, 25 points for the Italian director, 15 points for the movie releasing during the golden age of giallo cinema, and 15 points for this movie being a quintessential giallo film. And would you look at that, it is plot o'clock. The movie opens with credits over some out-of-focus canoodling, aardvarking, 10 points. Cut to the villa, then to Cat's Eyes. Animals featured, Black Cat, 2 points. E is for eyeballs, 5 points. Art featured, I'll include extra points for it being central to the plot, 10 points. We see a painting of a woman with said black cat. The man doting on her is Oliviero, her son. O is for obsession, 5 points. The house guests murmur about his mother, one implying that she was something of a trollop. Illicit drug use, 5 points. This is his wife, Irina, or Irene depending on the language version you are watching. She refuses to drink to his mother's memory, and so Oliviero collects various liquors into a bowl in a great shot which utilizes the depth of fields where Irina is in the background and then in the foreground. He forces his wife to drink from the bowl, much to the chagrin of the crowd. Irina takes off. Next, Oliviero focuses his directed scorn at his black housekeeper, Brenda. Typical 1970s Italian misogyny, woman is pawed, 7 points. X is for xenophobia, 5 points. And now for the worst part in the dubbing.
Daughter, daughter, lift your head. What color are your eyes? Daughter, daughter, look ahead. Don't let them tell you lies. Daughter, daughter, lift your eyes. What color are your dreams? Daughter, daughter, green and white. No man is what he seems. Daughter, daughter, lift your head. What color are your eyes?
Hippies, extra points for drugs and for dancing, 5 points. Gratuitous 70s dancing, extra if naked, 5 points. N is for nudity, 5 points. Off the record, this is a prequel for Glenda from the Pajama Girl case.
Because you're a woman.
Z is for zoom, 5 points. We cut over to Irina having a moment in the bathroom. With the party over, Irina returns into the dining room. First person POV, 5 points. She is dressed as Oliviero's mother. Extra points for Z is for zoom for a zoom on eyes, 5 more points. He approaches Irina. There's a wonderful image here of the portrait in the background showing how Oliviero's mother is literally the thing standing between them. It's been a while, but let's all say it together now. Symbolism. Oliviero asks, how dare you wear that? To which Irina challenges him by asking if it turns him on for her to dress like his mother. He slaps her. Typical 1970s Italian misogyny, woman is slapped, 5 points. Irina is exposed, and this excites Oliviero, who begins ravaging his wife. Necking, 5 points. The glass is taken out the next day, collected by this old woman. J is for J and B, 5 points. She laments the company Oliviero keeps in order to feel younger, and says how long ago, back when Oliviero's mother was still a little girl, that she was a servant here. We find out the cat's name is Satan. Exposition dumping, 2 points. Oliviero nearly clips her with the car on his way out. Reckless driving, 5 points. Italian locales, Montagnana, 3 points. I wouldn't say this is urban, however. This is a pretty small town. Luigi Pistilli always knows how to rock a nice turtleneck and cardigan, so F is for fashion, 5 points. I guess I should have given it for the dress, but whatever. Irina is ogled at by this group of men. This is Dario, who will come back later. Inside the bookstore, the clerk asks if Oliviero would like to have another rendezvous tonight. He agrees. I is for infidelity, 5 points. P is for priest, 5 points. The shopkeep urges Oliviero to switch publishers because it is a shame that his books are no longer seen in shop windows like they used to be. He leaves. Irina sees Satan near her pigeons and swats him away. Animal beaten, 3 points. Oliviero tells his wife he will be out tonight. In a remote location, the store clerk arrives and waits for Oliviero. She spies a figure watching her from across the way. It disappears. She walks towards the area. By the way, if you speed this section up by 5 times, the music sounds similar to the theme in Jaws. She turns around, but is attacked. K is for knives, 5 points. G is for gloves, extra points for them being black, 10 points. Foot chase, 5 points. Y is for yelling, extra points for a hysterical woman yelling, 10 points. She's killed, spilling grenadine all over the ground. The next morning, Irina awakens, sees Satan, as well as a police car driving up the villa entryway. She awakens Oliviero, informs him, and remarks how she didn't hear him come in last night, and implies he must have come home blackout drunk. Oliviero opens up and meets Inspector Farla. Inside, Farla asks about Oliviero's rendezvous with Fausta, the shopgirl. Oliviero confesses to being her high school teacher 10 years ago and that they have met up on and off. Inspector Farla and Irina tiptoe around the obvious subtext of this situation. Crime scene photos are shown, and Oliviero is questioned about his whereabouts last night. Q is for questions, 5 points. He says he was here at the villa. L is for lies, extra points for someone lying about their alibi, 10 points. A is for alibi, extra points for the alibi getting investigated, 10 points. Farla confirms this with Irina and asks if anybody else can corroborate this alibi, but she claims that the maid was out last night. In any case, Inspector Farla tells Oliviero not to leave town, then exits. Once alone, Oliviero tells Irina that Fausta couldn't accept that their affair was over, and he was late last night because of a flat tire. She doesn't seem to believe him, or otherwise is just dismissive. He jokes about how her throat could be next someday. Irina checks for herself and finds the spare tire in the trunk. Oliviero confronts her in a rage, saying he had the tire repaired and for her to keep her mouth shut. We cut to Oliviero drowning his woes in blended scotch. Extra points for J is for J and B being drunk. 5 more points. The revelers are back, but Oliviero orders them to be sent away. That night, a storm rages, and we see someone snooping outside the villa. Irina sleeps, and Brenda looks at some nudies, as we stutter to the cat's eyes several times. Queer character, bi or lesbian, 5 points. Maybe that's not the case, maybe she just likes the articles. Satan's meowing draws Brenda out of bed. She drifts through the darkened villa, finding Oliviero blackout drunk. She finds one of the Countess's dresses, strips, and slips it on. As she admires herself in the mirror and cops a feel, Oliviero awakens and watches her. An exterior door slams open and shut from the wind. Brenda rushes to the door, and it seems that there may be a figure standing outside. She locks the door, flees back inside, finds Oliviero now gone from his chair, and she rushes upstairs. She is attacked and slashed with the sickle. Irina awakens and checks the noise that she had just heard. She is startled by Brenda, who falls dead at her feet. The killer is Satan. Wait, no, sorry. Oliviero stumbles upstairs, sees Brenda's body, and seems really annoyed at this inconvenience. Irina urges him to call the police, but he refuses, citing that he's already a suspect of theirs. This will be the proof they need to convict him. He says they won't believe that he didn't do it, and he begs Irina to help him cover it up. They must bury her body in the cellar. He asks Irina to help him to remove the dress and wash the blood off, and when asked why not just bury her in it, Oliviero admits that he just can't. Mommy issues. The next day, it is revealed that Brenda was immured behind a new wall in the wine cellar, a la the cask of Amontillado. Or technically, a la the Black Cat. I'll get to that later. Evidence seen being hidden, 5 points. The doorbell rings. It's Dario, who's dropping off a delivery. He remarks on why Brenda isn't here as per usual, but Irina says that Brenda left for good. He has a telegram. Wrong telegram. It's a message from Oliviero's niece, Floriana, who is visiting soon to stay with them. What a coincidence. The couple waits for Floriana at the train station. This woman, Giovanna, gets groped by one of these horny soldiers. It seems like Florina has tricked them, but suddenly she pulls up in a car. She says she hitched a ride. Oliviero is visibly shocked by his niece's attractiveness. Yeah, Yeah, I said that. They head to the villa, but are spied upon by this white-haired man, played by Ivan Rasimov. Floriana asks about the villa, and Irina says they've had to downsize the rooms they occupy because of the degree of disrepair, out of their fear that eventually a ceiling will cave in on them. And no, that is not foreshadowing, although it should be. They discuss Oliviero's writer's block, Irina remarking that he's only been able to sell old furniture for the past few years. Under the bed, Floriana finds a black stocking from Brenda and asks about it. Irina snatches it from her. Later, the three talk about sex. Kind of. There's someone at the door. It's the white-haired man. He delivers a parcel. It's the blue dress worn by Brenda when she was murdered. Irina swears to Oliviero that she didn't send it to the cleaners. The couple retires upstairs, leaving Flo in the drawing room. She can hear Oliviero beating Irina and goes at once to confront them. Oliviero meets her and says everything is fine. Irina just went to bed. Flo says that she's tired from her travels and goes off to bed as well. Later in bed, Flo writes as Oliviero enters the room, looking for some notes. He stops and sits on the bed, staring at Flo, who confronts him for taking an eye to his niece. But she says that she is more than willing to do whatever is needed to bring pleasure into his life. Yeah, I said that too. He asks her why she's here, and she answers that she's been curious to visit ever since her Aunt Esther died, and she's heard that in the years since, that Oliviero has spiraled downward. On his way out, Flo asks if the rumors of him sleeping with his mother are true. He tries to save face by insulting her, but he's gonna have to do better than that. Irina wakes up and gets savaged by Satan. Flo hears her cries of pain and wakes up. She gets out of bed and investigates. The lights come on, then shut off. Flo wanders through the villa and finds Irina locked in a storage closet. Flo takes Irina to bed, asserting that Oliviero needs to see a doctor. There's something wrong with him. But Irina says that he doesn't realize the things which he does because he's oftentimes too drunk. Irina begs Flo not to involve doctors or outsiders into their affairs. She reveals that the police came under suspicion of Oliviero murdering a former fling. She begs silence from Flo, or else Oliviero might kill her, but Flo states that Irina is safe as long as she is here. She says she will remain by Irina's side, and that the two will be close allies. You know what that means. By giallo logic, we must have a lesbian scene. Nothing says giallo like a lesbian scene entirely from the male gaze. Lesbian scene, 7 points. And despite the sequence actually being filmed very tastefully, this beat here is definitely oral, 7 points. T is for telephone, 5 points. We drop in on Giovanna and her madame, I believe. The caller is a gentleman hoping to book Giovanna for a session. She goes off to bed, but someone is prowling around outside. She hops into bed, close up on a door handle or creeping through an ajar door, 5 points. Giovanna gets out of bed and checks on the sound. Brief scare with one of the dolls. She goes into the hall, peers down the darkened stairs, and goes to reach for the light switch, but she is attacked. Extra points for K is for knives, for the blade being bloodied, 5 more points. She collapses and slides down the full flight of stairs. The killer rushes down. U is for undercover, 5 points. The killer's identity is hidden due to the framing and editing, 2 points. Extra points for Z is for zoom, for a zoom on a dead body, 5 more points. Just then, the madame comes in and strikes the killer with some unknown object. W is for witness, 5 points. The killer is revealed to be the bookseller, Bartoli. The next day, Dario arrives with more groceries. He talks with Flo, and after some hardcore flirting with zero subtext, he assumes she's their new maid and tells her about Brenda. He invites Flo to come watch him compete in a motorbike race later. Over lunch, Inspector Farla apologizes for suspecting Oliviero and relays that Bartoli had escaped an asylum many years ago and that his real name was Liguori. He had committed the 2 recent killings because he'd gone mad. Later at home, drunk, Oliviero confronts his wife about how he's not the killer and states once again that he did not kill Brenda, but she challenges him to then call up the police, and he snaps and chokes her. Typical 1970s Italian misogyny. Woman is choked, 6 points. He relents. Later at the bike race, Flo watches Dario compete. The race goes on for a few minutes. Dario is a leader, but eventually his bike stalls out and he is forced to withdraw prematurely. Faulty car or car trouble, 2 points. He's upset, but Floriana offers to make it all better. They ride to a secluded, abandoned building, go in, set up, and undress for some nookie. Oliviero sneaks up and watches. V is for voyeur, 5 points. Flo locks eyes momentarily with Oliviero as she and Dario do the nasty. We watch Satan approach the pigeon coops. Irina goes outside and notices her birds have been killed. Animals killed, 5 points. She finds Satan, grabs the little bugger, and stabs his eye out with a pair of scissors. Mutilation of eyes, 5 points. Extra points for E's for eyeballs, for eyes being mutilated, 5 more points. This deed is witnessed by old Mrs. Molinar. Later, Flo is dropped off, and Irina tells her about the bloody business with the cat earlier. There's an odd scene where Irina freaks out after dumping out a parcel of sheep's eyes. Flo tends to Irina, whilst shaking off Oliviero's sexual advances. He remarks how Satan must be out on heat, for he's been gone since yesterday. Flo whispers to Irina that he still doesn't know about the cat. That night, Oliviero sneaks into Flo's room, but she confronts him while wearing the blue dress, asking if the maid was dressed like this when he killed her. She denies that Irina has told her anything, but that she herself has been very observant. She then turns the heat up, saying that she saw him spying on her with Dario and wishes that he was the one with her under the sleeping bag instead. He rips her clothes off. The two get down. The next day, Oliviero confronts Irina in the pigeon coop over a new pair of shears she'd bought. She says she couldn't find the old ones. He says that's odd because he still hasn't seen Satan in over 2 days and demands to know if she's hurt him, but she plays coy. Why would I do that? And he calls her out for always hating his mother's cat. He threatens her, then hurts her. She falls and he follows, plunging the scissors into the soil beside her head. Her terror excites him. Flo comes out, sees what's happening, but doesn't interfere and returns inside. In town, Mrs. Molinar asks to speak to the police. The three are now out at a picnic overlooking a steep cliff. The women talk about Oliviero. Irina mentions his impotence, and Flo confesses to sleeping with him. She seems to suggest the romantic nature of the idea of Irina being such a tortured soul and therefore taking her own life in a grandiose way, like throwing herself off of the cliff. That night, the cat's mewling awakens Irina. She finds her husband and Flo post-coitus, Flo mentioning that she cannot stand the two much anymore. They're just both so much drama. She tries to kick Oliviero out, fearing what might happen if Irina catches them, but he says that he has reopened the hole in the wall and that there's plenty of space for him to stuff his wife's body in there, and he will do it very soon. The incessant meowing draws Irina downstairs. Oliviero finds her and begins slapping her repeatedly. He then retires into his studio to write. Irina goes outside. Flo is awakened by a rapping at her window. It's Dario. He invites her to leave with him tomorrow morning for his race out of town. She agrees. Irina overhears this, then sees Satan running along. She grabs a pair of scissors and gives chase to the animal. She tries to stab him, but he evades her. Inside, she can still hear Oliviero typing, and so she sneaks down into the cellar, where she finds the wall indeed opened up and Brenda's body still there. She runs back up, scissors in hand, and pushes into the studio, where Oliviero is now passed out. As she stalks closer, she has a series of flashbacks to his abuse. Now at his writings, she peruses it, and the contents detail how he will kill her and immure her body in the cellar. He awakens, and she stabs him repeatedly. Irina seems to be falling apart. Flo confronts Irina over the murder. Flo states that it doesn't matter what her reasoning is, that the judge will still throw her away for life in prison. However, if Irina tells Flo where Aunt Esther's jewels are hidden, that she'll be complicit and help her hide the body. The two hide Oliviero's body behind the wall and plaster him in. Outside, the white-haired man lurks. Irina hands over the box full of valuable jewelry. Flo, a completely different person now, says she must take her leave. Irina concocts a lie to tell people for where Oliviero went, but decides that she will leave the villa for good, before begging Flo to remain here for just one more night. She agrees. Irina goes to take sleeping pills with alcohol, but Flo stops her, which means no points for that, and instead says that she knows what will help her sleep. Oh yeah. An unseen figure pushes inside the villa. Flo gets up in the middle of the night, grabs the box of loot, and leaves the bedroom. She is being watched. Irina then gets up and moves out of bed now. We see the typewriter writing revenge over and over. Before Irina can enter the studio, she's confronted by Flo, who interrogates her for wanting to stay longer so Irina could kill her. She demands to know who is in the studio. She checks for herself, but it is empty. Flo inspects the pages, but has had enough. She grabs her things and flees into the night. The white-haired man is revealed to be working with Irina, the latter asserting that Flo will be at the bridge around 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. They kiss. Irina is in the cellar, completely mad. She revels in how Oliviero is dead and confesses to his grave that she had Brenda killed in order to drive him crazy. Hidden identity of the killer until the final moments. 5 points. We cut to Dario and Flo riding out of town, driving on a winding road on a mountain setting. 2 points. We watch as oil is poured out onto the road at a particularly hazardous turn. The bike hits the spill, wipes out, and the two die on the pavement. The white-haired man grabs the bag, sets the oil ablaze, and leaves. A murder is faked as a vehicular accident. 5 points. The accomplice is killed. 5 points. The man, named Walter, and Irina arrive at the cliffside to discuss what has occurred, which is odd because they could have just had this conversation in the car, but if they did, then the next thing couldn't happen. Irina states that Walter must help remove the two bodies behind the wall, or else they will eventually be discovered. She shows him the steep cliff, asserting how perfect it is. They can just throw the bodies off of here. Then she pushes him off the edge. Somebody dies by falling to their death. 15 points. The killer dies accidentally by falling. 10 points. The killer is killed by someone. 10 points. She drives back to the villa. Oh, by the way, set in a manor or chateau. 5 points. Inspector Farla is here. He has arrived to follow up on Mrs. Molinar's report of Irina torturing an animal. Irina explains herself, and Farla understands, but he needs just a moment of her time in order for him to write his report and close it out. They move inside. They toast their drinks, then hear the damned cat downstairs mewling. They proceed down, but cannot find the cat in the cellar. Irina offers them priceless bottles to get them out of there, and they accept, but the meowing continues. Noticing a hole in a wall made of fresh plaster, the sergeant begins breaking through it. Irina has gone completely mad. Inside, they find Oliviero's body and the cat, who is also dead. The movie ends there. Let's add up some final cliches. S is for secrets. Extra points for the killer having an impossible to predict motivation. 10 points. Perhaps Irina has a very obvious motivation, but these extra points can honestly go to anybody else, the bookseller, or to Walter, or whoever. And extra points for O is for obsession, for the killer being obsessed. 5 more points. And that's Your Vice is a Locked Room, and Only I Have the Key. Okay, yeah. I really like this one. I mean, let's be honest, Sergio Martino didn't make any bad giallo films, at least not in his early run. They're all fucking great. Okay, so in terms of who the killer is, yeah, this one is crazy. There's so many killers. Like, it kind of copies what he did in The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward by having somebody else actually be the killer, and that somebody else is completely random. Like, yes, we did meet the shopkeeper earlier, but there was no setup. I mean, yes, he overheard Fausta and Oliviero talking about meeting up later, but the movie did not try to set him up as a killer, is what I'm trying to say. And then the whole who's Walter aspect, we find out he killed Brenda and he was working with Irina this whole time to make Oliviero go crazy and yada yada yada. That's all a surprise. Although the moment we see him, you could easily assume that he's involved. And then in terms of Irina being the killer, well, she actually doesn't commit any of those early kills. You know, she's not there to commit them. So the movie does a good job of hiding her intentions until like the last third of the movie. All in all, it's really cool. And then, okay, in terms of the allusions to Edgar Allan Poe, in the past, I have said that this movie draws on from The Black Cat short story, The Cask of Amontillado, and The Telltale Heart. Truthfully, it really just draws from The Black Cat, but the thing is, a lot of Edgar Allan Poe's short stories had very similar themes, and so The Black Cat and The Telltale Heart both came out in the same year, and they both deal with very similar themes, but the fact of the matter is the immuring the dead bodies behind the wall, that's in The Black Cat, and that came out 3 years before The Cask of Amontillado. The difference of The Cask of Amontillado is the person who is immured is still alive. So the fact that this movie walls in people that are dead is actually a callback to The Black Cat. Not quite The Cask of Amontillado, but like I said, he borrows a lot of themes and things in his stories, so Cask of Amontillado was kind of copying The Black Cat. Blah, blah, blah. And then the whole thing of guilt is a big thing in The Telltale Heart, but again, It's also a big thing in The Black Cat. I would say a difference between The Black Cat and Your Vice, although this is not quite conclusive. We don't really know if she killed the cat or not. I mean, we assume that she didn't, but in the Poe story, when they break open the wall and they find the dead body and the cat is alive and was walled in accidentally. And it was actually shrieking, sounding like the woman who was walled in. In Your Vice, when they break it open, we see the cat, and maybe it's because it's that really bad puppet that I always just assumed the cat was dead, and that was the whole spooky aspect that it was calling out. But I think it's actually supposed to be alive. I think the point is it's just like the Black Cat. She accidentally walled it in, didn't realize it. Doesn't matter, but let's move on, shall we? Let's segue to the GialliTally cliches for this movie. Post-Giallo viewing cliches. The reason for the killing. Well, we have 3 killers. Liguori killed 2 women, Walter killed 3 people, and Irina killed 2. Regardless, the reasoning is either going to be revenge and psychological trauma, or mental illness, psychopathy, and obsession. And they are all worth the same, so 7 points. The reason for the investigation? Police investigator, 2 points. Bonus points. The style bonus. The movie features a lot of stuttering of various images throughout, usually of the cat. We have some zooms, slow zoom outs, some fading, great usage of the depth of fields, like that actually stands out to me. But honestly, nothing too crazy in terms of the usual style tropes in giallo. So out of a maximum of 25 points possible, I will give Your Vice 14 points for its style bonus. Soundtrack.
Daughter, lift your head. What color are your eyes?
Yes, 15 points. Bad effects. Yes, goofy gore effects that if you pause and look at those bodies, you can tell that they're just like, I don't know, Mod Podge. We have fake animals, like puppets. We have a fake body being thrown off of a cliff, although I will say that fake body falling is arguably among the most convincing. 15 points. Final look. Extra points. The Deadpool, tallying how many kills and deaths are featured in the film. I break it down as thus. 10 points per kill or death scene for the main Deadpool, plus any stylistic kill multipliers, which we didn't add yet, plus the knife kill bonus. We have... Oh, by the way, for this film, I will be counting the sickle blade as a knife. I mean, I already did, but just so you know. Anyways, Fausta, throat slit with a knife, 22 points. Brenda, she's slashed, so I'm going to give points for impaling and with a knife, 21 points. Giovanna, same thing, so impaled with a knife, 21 points. Liguori, I'd say bludgeoned, but the way he bleeds out looks as if he was lacerated with something. I don't know, but I'll go with my gut. Bludgeoned, 15 points. Oliviero, impaled with scissors, 16 points. Floriana, vehicular, 19 points. Dario, vehicular, 19 points. And Walter, fell, 10 points. Extended Deadpool for those other deaths mentioned but not seen, I'll give 3 points for each. Aunt Esther, 3 points. Red herrings for the total number of legitimate suspects in the film. 5 points per legit suspect are awarded. We have Oliviero, Irina, Dario, and Walter. 20 points for red herrings. Honestly, that's it. I think it's hilarious that the bookseller is a killer because, like I said, it's not really set up in the slightest. Flashback sequences, 5 points each. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 20 points for flashbacks. Nudity, I award 5 points for ass, 7 for breasts, and 10 for genitalia. We have ass and breasts. 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 Everything. Breasts. Breasts and ass. Breasts and ass. And ass. 84 points for nudity. Ladies and gentlemen, for Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, I awarded the film an AZ score of 20 out of 26. With the bonus points for these, we have a modified score total of 155 points. And for the full GialliTally score, I award Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key a GialliTally score of 847 points. Compared to Short Night of Glass Dolls in first with 969 points, What Have You Done to Solange in second with 933 points, and Delirium in third with 839 points, Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key is now in third place with 847 points. I predicted around 725 to 775 points, and yeah, as I was going through it, I was like, wow, there's a lot of cliches in this movie. And you know what the cool thing is? It's not all nudity. There was a lot of points for the repeat offenders because so many of these people worked on so many movies. I even with capping Carla Mancini at 10, because if I didn't, she'd probably have like 17, 18 points. But nah, I have to cap that. But the nudity did not lead this one. There were a lot of kills, but there was just a lot of the AZ cliches were used, and they got a lot of extra points, and then there was just a lot of the staples that were seen. Sergio Martino might make the most cliched giallo films. We'll see as we go further along. I'm really curious now to see how Torso ends up on this. But like I say, these points do not mean a movie is better or worse. Please like this video, share it with your friends if they are horror fans or cinephiles, subscribe to The King in Giallo if you haven't yet, and if you have any questions, thoughts, curiosities, or concerns, leave those below in the comments section and I will get back to you. Give The King in Giallo a follow on Instagram and a like on Facebook. Subscribe to The King in Giallo Patreon to see early access to all of the YouTube videos, exclusive video series that can only be found there, and to generally support what I do. Next time on The King in Giallo will be the overview, review, and GialliTally for the debut gothic and pseudo-giallo film directed by Francisco Larrapolap, Murder Mansion, released on August 5th, 1972. Thank you all very much for your continued support, and a special thank you to those who support me directly on Patreon. This is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time.
Senti, è vero che dormivi con tua madre nel suo letto? Già da grandicello, voglio dire.
È vero che sei una puttanella da 4 soldi?
Beh, potrebbero essere 4 soldi spesi bene.